Hello and welcome to today's webinar, the Haynes U.S. Grown Cotton Summit, Why Sustainability Matters for Strong Apparel Sales. So we've got a lot of great info to cover today, so we're going to dive right in. So my name is Emma O'Sullivan, and I'm the manager of branded content here at ASI. And today I have the pleasure of being joined by Chris Fox, Chief Sustainability Officer of Haynes Brands, Chris Gard, Marketing Manager at Haynes Printwear, Taylor Carney, Assistant Marketing Manager at Haynes Brands, and Carson Ronquetto, Chief Operating Officer at Creative. So thank you all for joining us today. So now it's time for today's topic, sustainability. So I'd like to kick things off by asking our audience an important question first. What does sustainability mean to you? So please take a moment, think about that question, and if you can type your answers into the chat box, I'll read a couple of responses to the panelists and to our audience. So I'll give you guys a couple moments to send in some responses. Okay, I see a couple of responses coming in. So I'm seeing sustainability means being good for the planet. I see products that last for a long time, and some mentionings of eco-friendly materials. So Chris Fox, as the Chief Sustainability Officer at Haynes Brands, it's clear that Haynes places a lot of importance on corporate social responsibility, since you have a whole team dedicated to it. So can you tell us a little bit about what sustainability means to Haynes Brands and how that maybe differs from some of our audience responses?
Yeah, it's well, thank you. Thanks so much for the opportunity to be here. And yeah, at Haynes Brands, we've taken corporate responsibility and sustainability really seriously for literally decades. And for us, it means, you know, a lot of the things that our audience members called out, but it really means that much more. It means all of it. It means people, planet, and product. And in our newly announced 2030 goals, we have said that it's our goal to improve the lives of, for example, of people, improve the lives of over 10 million people over the next 10 years. In planet, you know, taking, you know, continued extraordinary efforts to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions. And for us, that means signing up for science-based targets. And we're going through that process right now. And for product as well, using more sustainable cotton, what we're talking about here today, and our heavy focus on U.S. cotton, and things as well as really ramping up our use of recycled polyester and potentially biodegradable polyester, reducing and getting out of single-use plastics. So it's a very holistic view of sustainability, and really impacting all three of those, what we call pillars: people, planet, and product.
Gotcha. So it seems that the promo industry has really evolved in recent years to where sustainability is now a really critically important factor. Why do you think that is?
I think that's what our consumers demand, and range of stakeholders demand, from the NGO community to our own employees, quite honestly, to those investing in public companies like ours, but in particular the consumer and the younger consumer. That's what they expect companies to do, and if you don't do it, or worse yet, you've got a black eye in the space, they're not going to buy your product. And so paying attention to all those stakeholders out there, but in particular the consumer, I think is what has driven us for years to take this space very, very seriously, and why we think sustainability is such a relevant issue in all consumer goods space, but in particular this space here.
Awesome, thank you. So Chris Gard, we've also seen the popularity of cotton really spike in recent years as well. So what are you seeing from your vantage point in regards to this?
Hey, Emma, happy to be here. Yes, cotton is extremely important for the industry, especially in the decorated apparel space. Within our own portfolio of products, around 85% of the units we sell are made with either 100% cotton or with a CVC blend, which means chief value cotton. So most of the fibers are cotton. And through the pandemic, many of us working from home, we're opting for comfort, and cotton has become a premier choice of people looking for comfortable clothing because it's a natural fiber and it wicks well and a lot of great stuff. And if we're sitting at home working in our tees and our sweats, cotton is a great choice. A few years back, it seemed like synthetic materials were having a moment and they were becoming more and more important, but cotton has held its own. It's definitely making a splash in athletic wear or athleisure in that category where people they're choosing performance products that can go with them the whole day, and cotton's a big piece of that. Workwear, if you've got to work out in the sun all day or somewhere, cotton's a really good choice for those kinds of products. And then school uniforms, cotton will always have a place in that kind of world. And just basic promo items in general, cotton tees are kind of leader of the pack. That said, if cotton is going to be such an important input into the apparel that goes into the promo industry, the importance of sustainable cotton is that much more relevant. And so focusing on where the cotton comes from and how it's made is really meaningful when having a sustainability conversation.
Absolutely. So Chris Fox, there's clearly a lot of reasons to love cotton, but why should we love U.S. grown cotton in particular? Chris, you're muted.
Really, for a whole range of reasons, and as you can see right here up on the screen, the U.S. farmer over the last 40 years, in conjunction with groups like Cotton Inc., helping them, have just made tremendous strides in their overall environmental footprint, using a lot less land, using less water, using fewer pesticides, and kind of real bottom line is U.S. cotton really is some of the most, if not the most, responsibly grown cotton on the planet. And kind of a fun fact, a lot of people don't know that cotton is actually regulated as a food crop in the U.S. As it goes into cottonseed oil, it goes into animal feed. So the whole regulatory environment around cotton in the U.S. is dramatically different than it is in many other parts of the world. And so from its environmental footprint to the reality of its U.S. farmers growing them, right? So the jobs that cotton and U.S. cotton is providing here in the U.S., much of the cotton is spun into yarn still here in the United States. So the more U.S. cotton we buy, and at the end of the day, you and our consumers buy, that means more American jobs, and we're proud to be a part of that.
Absolutely. That's really interesting. And as you can see on screen, there's definitely some really significant improvements. So how exactly was that achieved?
I think, honestly, through a lot of hard work, a lot of hard work, a lot of science. I had no idea, coming into this space many years ago, how science driven, quite frankly, a lot of agriculture is, but in particular cotton. And when you've got the resources behind, entities like Cotton Inc., that have the ability to take a lot of pure science and drive it into the farmer's world here in the U.S., that just doesn't get into other parts of the world. That's made the strides that they have. It's a lot of hard work and it's a lot of science.
Absolutely. So lastly, I just wanted to ask you, what should these stats mean specifically to distributors and printers in the promo industry?
I'm sorry, say that again, Emma. I didn't quite catch that.
What should these stats mean to distributors and printers in the promo industry? So what should they really take away from this, and how can they use it to their benefit?
I think, at the end of the day, if your consumer, and we believe they are concerned about, where their products and materials are coming from, if you can say it's cotton, then you can say from a whole range of sustainability perspectives, as well as the reality that it's employing a lot of people here in the U.S. That's the product you want to buy, and that's why we're so proud to talk about the 100% cotton campaign around our beefy tee. That all of the cotton going into that beefy tee is coming out of the U.S. and I think that should give folks a lot of reasons, good reasons to buy our product, knowing for a range of reasons, not the least of which is the sustainable aspects of U.S. cotton, that this is a really sustainable product to buy.
Absolutely. Okay, so now Chris Gard, turning back over to you to discuss a Haynes staple, the beefy tee. So what is it that makes the Haynes beefy tee t-shirt so special?
So when we looked at starting a campaign on U.S. cotton, the obvious choice for us was to start with the beefy tee, which, as many of you may or may not know, was the t-shirt that started it all in the decorated apparel promo space. Prior to the beefy tee being created and launched in the market in around 1975, everyone was going to, I guess it was Sears back then, and buying underwear t-shirts, busting open the packs and printing on them. And there was a marketing manager in the Haynes men's underwear business that noticed a ton of white t-shirts being shipped to California and ultimately Hawaii. And so he bravely went out to Hawaii for 2 weeks to try and figure out what was going on. And what we found is people were screen printing, they were tie-dyeing, they were customizing themselves and decorating the t-shirts. And that's really where the industry was born. And so starting all the way back 1975, the beefy tee's come a long way. It's become an icon in the industry. I think most people have some level of understanding or some relationship with the beefy tee. And we continue to innovate. We launched the clean canvas on beefy tee to make it the best printing shirt. It's still a classic thick heavyweight shirt, which we're seeing heavyweight trend in a big way in the market. It's one of the reasons we've been able to sell the beefy tee at retail to Urban Outfitters and PacSun and kind of tastemaker retailers like that. And now moving into U.S. grown cotton, I think this is just the next step for beefy tee as we continue to evolve and continue to improve. But it's a timeless classic t-shirt fit, just a thick heavyweight t-shirt that everyone enjoys wearing and comfortable. And I think the U.S. cotton only helps to enhance that story as we continue to grow beefy tee, and it continues to grow in popularity.
Great. Thanks, Chris. So now to learn a little bit more about that, I'd like to speak with Carson, who is also familiar with the Haynes beefy tee for her own business. So Carson, your business has adopted a very forward-thinking business approach. Can you tell us more about that and how the beefy tee kind of comes into play? Oh, Carson, I think you're muted if you want to just hit that. It happens to the best of us.
I promised myself I wasn't going to do that. So I did. Thanks for having me, Emma.
Mm-hmm.
So at Creative, we really just we've centered our entire business model and our interactions with clients around product with purpose. So purpose is the centralmost part of really everything we do, every conversation we have with a client or with a prospect. So before we ever look at what a product is going to be, whether it's an apparel piece or another hard good, we're asking why before we ever get to that what piece. And as a result of that, as a result of kind of shifting that conversation away from product, it's given us an opportunity to work a lot more with clients on front-end strategy that I think leads to more high impact, more robust campaigns and initiatives once the product comes into play. And then, you know, beyond that, it's given us an opportunity to work with clients and projects that our values as a company are aligned with, and it gives our team an opportunity to work on projects that I think they're genuinely excited about. So
that makes sense. So I have a question for you. What do you do when customers just want the least expensive t-shirt that they can get? How do you handle those situations?
Don't you hate that when 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 that's the driver. So I don't want to sound too repetitious, but again, we don't start those conversations with product, and we ask a lot of questions of our clients on the front end, a lot of just discovery questions, which I'm sure a lot of us have in our toolkit. But by focusing in on that why first, by asking who is that audience, what is the purpose behind this event, this giveaway, this campaign, even questions like, how do you want that end user to feel when they experience this? By asking some of those questions, I think we're able to drive them away from that. And then I think beyond that, speaking to the importance of longevity, the importance of quality as it relates to their brand, and the sort of message that you send when you put your brand on maybe the least expensive item, or even beyond that, just an item that's not connected back to a purpose. So starting that conversation there really does help us to shift that. And then too, I don't know if this is a popular sentiment, but like not being afraid to say, okay, if this is your budget, what if we did something, what if we centered on a product that has this higher quality, maybe costs more, but we do less with that. And so rather than maybe doing something in mass, and I think that there's this false narrative around sustainability that means it's going to be more expensive. And we've just found that, number one, not to always be the case. And number two, when you consider brand impressions of quality made items, items that are well designed, there's a better return on investment there anyway.
Absolutely. So going back to what you said about kind of understanding that why do you think your customers are interested in sustainably made products?
So Chris Fox said this earlier, and it's really because our buyers are also consumers, just like all of us, right? So they're bringing those convictions and those personal buying opinions into their B2B buying decisions. And I do that. And so obviously our clients are doing that as well. So you've got more companies building sustainability initiatives into their core values, focused on corporate responsibility. And so those purchasing decisions are aligning with those values, which I think is great. And then we just have so much as a society, a lot more awareness around, there's been a lot of focus on climate change and fair labor practices. And so because of that, just the common person is more engaged in that conversation, and we should all expect that they're going to bring that into those buying decisions.
Absolutely. So could you give us an example of when the Haynes BPT was the right fit for you and your customers, no pun intended?
Yes. So it actually, I'll share with you just a little bit about the shirt that's on this slide. We'll look at starting a conversation with a client and connecting product back to purpose or mission. We believe that everything should be through the lens of want. Is your end user, your end customer going to want this? Is it going to, does it have so much utility? Does it have so much purpose that they're going to want to keep it? Or is it going to make them feel something that is going to make them want to keep that? So we start there. And that's helped us to, I think, align a lot of our clients. We are aligned, creative, and our clients are aligned through that. So with this specific project, this is from a client. They're an amazing agency, and so they came to us. We partner with them on a lot of projects with this just really amazing like design concept that they wanted to bring to life and share with their customers. So and as an aside, I think another important call out is the impact that design can have on sustainability. I'm far more excited to receive something that's well designed versus something that simply has a logo on it. So for this, obviously there was an amazing design concept, and I think Chris Gard, you mentioned the BPT is having a major moment right now in fashion, and so I think it's first and foremost. I think my favorite thing about it is the quality. It is, something that can withstand lots of laundering, wash after wash. It just really holds up. So this client not only wanted to see that design be front and center, they wanted to make sure that what they were putting that design on was something that was going to have longevity. So when we suggested the BPT, the best part was our contact said, "Oh, I love that you selected the BPT because I still have BPTs in my drawers from the 80s."
I love that.
I thought that was fantastic because, that's what I get excited about. How do we create merchandise that has 40 plus years of brand recognition? That's the sort of project that I think we all want to be working on. So the BPT is one of my personal favorites for that reason.
Awesome. So then last but not least, I want to ask you, what selling tips would you give or would you recommend for customers who both have or have not expressed interest already in sustainably made products? How do you handle both of those situations?
I think we have to tell stories. I think that, so there were some amazing data and stats that were shared on this slide, and personally, that's information that I'm very interested in, just on a personal level. And I think we have some customers and clients that are interested in those stats and data, but I think that stories are really what sell. So especially those clients that maybe aren't as inclined to naturally make purchasing decisions that are sustainable.
Okay.
So how can we tell a story and connect them to more sustainable purchasing decisions? And then beyond that, I think going back to design, I think has a direct impact on sustainability. How can we incorporate better design into the products that we're selling? And then just selling people on the why. Why was this the product you selected? Show them less. I'm a big believer on that. Like, don't show them 10 different apparel options. Like, really curate that down and then sell them on the why behind that product selection.
Great, thank you. And just a FYI to our audience, we will have a Q&A coming up at the end of today's webinar. So if you are already thinking of some questions, please feel free to type them into the chat box and we'll be getting to those later. All right, so then moving on, this one's for you, Chris Gard, continuing our conversation about the Haynes BPT. What is your message that you really want to convey to our audience? Or if there's like one piece of lasting advice you could give, what would that be?
Yeah, and we put it right on the screen. The one message, if you want to tie all three kind of pillars of our sustainability message together, the BPT is one thing you can do that has an impact on people, planet, and product. It's a product that, like Carson said, can have 40 years of impact. The U.S. cotton has a tremendous impact on the planet, and the people element, I think, is sometimes forgotten in the sustainability message. But it's really the people that work to grow that cotton, spin the yarns, knit the fabric, and cut and sew into the BPT. And so you can have an impact on all three of those with this product. And I think that's a really powerful message.
Absolutely. So now I have some questions for you, Taylor. So how can distributors sell sustainability when it often means, as we learned earlier, something different to each person?
Yeah. So that is a tough one. So recently I've had the opportunity to really talk to a mix of PPDs and printers that have a broad range of knowledge on sustainability. And, I know it's a challenge to talk about sustainability because it feels like such a big topic because it is big. So, everyone has a different perception and understanding of sustainability, and each of us responds and reacts differently to information as it's laid out in front of us. So kind of what I want to do is give you like a point of reference on different ways to talk about sustainability to those different types of customers, which it's super interesting, Carson, you mentioned it earlier, the direction between you've got your numbers-based thinkers and then those emotion, story-driven consumers. And, first off, before I get into kind of how you address the two individual groups, I would say, the best thing you can do is find a point of relation. Whether sustainability like means being good for the planet, like you mentioned earlier, or it's eco-friendly product or materials, you really need to find a relatable point. So people want to be understood, like met eye to eye when discussing this topic. And as distributors, you're gonna come across all kinds of different customers, but I like to break it down to those two groups. You've got your fact-driven and your emotion-driven. And I would say, don't be afraid to ask your customers, what does sustainability mean to you? And truly engage with them in an open conversation, because I think it's most important to identify which method of communication your customer is going to best respond to, or else the conversation is really not going to go anywhere.
Absolutely. So what tools do you have to kind of help drive that conversation?
We have a lot of tools available for everyone, so I'm super excited to talk about that. We've been working on this campaign for a while now, and we've got a lot of great things for you. So again, like I said, sustainability is a big, big topic. So the way we were kind of looking at it with this campaign, we really wanted to focus on those numbers, because we know that there's a lot of people out there that respond best to percentages, like what, in the grand scheme of things, what are the percentage boil down to? How much water is being saved? How much land is being used? All those good things. But then also we need to connect with those people that are connected to the emotional stories. So what we've done is we've created meaningful tools to connect with both types. I conducted a lot of research to find the right facts to relate to those numbers, folks. And then also I had the opportunity to go out to a cotton farm in the fall during harvest season and firsthand experience this harvesting process. And what was so interesting is the local farm here in North Carolina, I was able to go out. There was nothing to hide. I could go out there on the farm. I could see them using their machines. Like they were so open to really communicating with me on that. And with that, I was able to conduct some interviews with the farmers there, and then just grab a lot of imagery assets that we've put together. So we've got those two. We've got the facts-driven stuff, which is we've got fact sheets printed and ready to go for
Taylor,
anyone
I think your audio
that is in.
Out for a moment. If you want to try muting yourself and unmuting yourself really quick, just to see if that corrects it. Okay, I think I can hear you now.
Can you hear me now? Am I lagging?
Yes, you're all good. So keep going with what you were saying before.
Yeah, so on the screen, you can actually see we've got our fact sheet, which the facts were on one of the slides earlier. These are all our posters ready to go, printed for customers to use. So please reach out and we can get you those assets. But then again, with that imagery, we have these tools available so to be used on what I think is the most important platform, which is your social media. And I am a member of Gen Z myself, so I know just firsthand how big a role social media plays in the purchasing decisions of consumers in today's world. I think that that's where social media is where people are going to learn more about important topics such as sustainability and where they're going to purchase their products. So really getting all of this information in these apps out there is the key. So if you guys have any questions or ideas on how you'd like to collaborate on a campaign, please feel free to reach out to us.
Awesome. And then my last question for you, Taylor. How would you or who would you recommend distributors and printers sell the Haynes BVT to in particular? Are there any certain markets that are really lucrative for this?
So it's an interesting question, Emma, because my answer is going to be kind of simple. Everyone. I would say everybody. The BVT is a great fit for just about any type of consumer because, as Chris mentioned, it's got such a rich history. And so you're really going to hit the mark with those people that are following it from its huge success in the 70s and the 80s and the 90s. But then I think that brings it into this generation, because this younger generation is all about vintage and what was cool back in the day, bringing it into today's world. And then on top of that, the BVT is a heavyweight shirt, which is all the rage right now. So much so that we've got great retail partners that Chris was mentioning earlier with Urban Outfitters and PacSun. They're all carrying this legendary tee. So you're really hitting two totally different age demographics, a large range of people, but then also going into end use, because we've got this clean canvas technology with our BVT that makes it ideal for printers. It's providing this optimal printing service for DGG and other decoration methods. So in my opinion, the BVT is not only the right fit for your sustainability minded customers with the US grown cotton, but it's also the shirt for your quality driven customers that want a t-shirt that's going to have a long lifespan. And then also for your traditional customers that are comfortable with the BVT, they've known it for years. And then your printability customers, but then you've also got your fashion driven customers with all of the BVT's success at retail. So really did a bunch of different buckets here.
Awesome. That's great to know how it has so much mass appeal. All right, so then moving on to our Q&A section. So we're going to open up our discussion now for audience questions. I saw a couple come through already. So, anything you want to ask, please just type it into the chat box now, and I'll read them off to our presenters. And then just an FYI for everyone, if we're unable to get to everyone's questions, we will be sending all questions to our presenters at the end of today's webinar. So they'll be able to follow up with you after as well. All right, so while I wait for some questions to come in, I'm going to start reading a couple that came in previously. All right, so first question, where can attendees find resources, some of the resources mentioned today on Brandwear United?
So I'll point you towards Taylor, because she's got a ton of that stuff ready to go. And so if you need more information, reach out to Taylor. And I don't know if all of our contact is at the end of this or not, Emma, but if you need specifics, Taylor and I can definitely help you, point you in the right direction.
Awesome. Thanks, Chris. All right,
yeah,
another question. Oh, go ahead.
I was just also going to say, check out our social media accounts, our Brandwear United social media on Instagram and on LinkedIn. We're rolling this campaign out there as well.
Awesome, thanks. Okay, next question. Is there a sustainability message for the jacket fabric?
For which, did you say jacket?
Yeah, jacket fabrics.
Sorry, I think my audio is cutting out.
Oh, sorry, can you hear me? It was, the question is there, what kind of sustainability message is there for jacket fabric? Coats and jackets?
Jacket fabric.
Yes.
Sustainability for jacket fabrics. Chris, I don't know if you've got any detail.
I would say to the extent that there's poly in it, and there probably is, our goal, one of our stated 2025 goals, is to move to 100% recycled poly, and also looking at biodegradable technologies as well. So to the extent that it's not cotton but poly, we're really focused on using more recycled and potentially biodegradable poly in things like jackets and in cotton poly blends for fleece and jersey as well.
Great, thank you. All right, another question. Is the BVT also manufactured in USA, or is it being shipped from foreign manufacturers?
I can take that as well. So obviously, as we said, the cotton's grown in the U.S. It's made into yarn. Unlike the vast majority of other apparel companies, we actually own the vast majority of our own manufacturing. So the fabric is made offshore. It is sewn offshore, largely in Dominican Republic or Central America. But they are made in our own facilities with our core set of internal standards. And I would encourage folks too, I think I'd mentioned before, and if I hadn't, obviously we're just scratching the surface here in this webinar on what we are doing as a company and as a brand around sustainability. But there is a lot more information on our newly launched sustainability site, and the URL is www.hbisustains.com. So you can see what we're doing across a range of initiatives. You'll see our new 2030 goals, and you'll see what we're doing in the 3 pillars of people, planet, and product. but in particular people, you'll get to see a lot more information about what we are doing at our facilities, in particular those facilities offshore where we're making and sewing things like this PVT.
Great. All right, another question for you. Does Haynes put any marks on product labels or on the Haynes website to define when products like the BPT use U.S. cotton? Is there an easy way to tell?
You know what? So, well, I don't think, and Chris and you guys, Chris and Taylor, are a little bit closer to exactly how we have labeled this. I haven't seen it, but it's going to be easy for the BPT going forward. It's all going to be U.S. cotton, right? So whether you label it or not, you're going to know it's U.S. cotton. But that's honestly an interesting point and an interesting call out. You know, whether or not we are specifically labeling for that. So so folks that may not know or have listened in on this webinar and or seen our campaigns that in fact it really is U.S. cotton.
Yeah, so in the print specifically, we have a little bug we put on our products that are made with U.S. grown cotton because last fall we launched this Crop to Campus campaign. So it makes it super easy. Those are our comfort wash line. It makes it super easy to identify, you know, which products have 100% U.S. grown cotton. They're made with 100% U.S. grown cotton. And then we also have it in the label of our BPT made with U.S. grown cotton.
Great. Yep. Awesome. All right, another question for you guys. Does Haynes participate in any programs like the Cotton Trust Protocol or BCI?
Yes, we've done, well, let me say back up just a little bit. And I mentioned Cotton Inc. in some of my opening comments. And we have worked for years and years with Cotton Inc., who's just a leader in the industry in the science of it, especially at the cotton and the farm level, and have and will continue to do a lot of work with Cotton Inc. I'm taking a look at U.S. Cotton Trust right now and BCI, and moving towards working with BCI as well.
Awesome. Are there any initiatives to manufacture the BPT in the U.S.?
And by manufacture, do you mean sew it?
We'll say yes.
Yeah, and the reality there is probably not, and it's the same dynamic across honestly the entire apparel industry, that it's simply too expensive to do that. It's just dramatically more expensive to sew the product here in the U.S., which is why we focus on the things that do make cost sense, and that is farming and growing cotton here, spinning it into yarn, which is a very capital intensive. But the sewing process, like us and like the rest of the industry, is in all likelihood going to continue to occur in places outside of the United States.
Gotcha. Someone else would like to know, what is Haynes doing to promote sustainable and ethical working conditions?
A ton of stuff. I'm sorry to take all the questions. We do a tremendous amount, both in our own facilities and with those that we do contract with. That's not the case for the BVT. And again, I would encourage folks, go to HBI Sustains, look in the people section, and you'll see a whole host of information on that very question. And that's probably the best place to point folks to learn more about what we're doing around our people and our supply chain.
Awesome. All right, another question. What energy sources do you use in your factories?
Guys, want me to take that one too?
Go ahead, Chris.
A lot of renewable energy. We have made tremendous strides in reducing our overall energy use and increasing the amount of renewable energy that we use. The fact that we own our textile mills in Dominican Republic and in Central America has allowed us to build big biomass energy plants. So our steam and part of our electricity come out of renewable resources. So currently our total energy portfolio is is over 40%, I believe, in total renewable energy. And so we've made big strides, and that's how we've driven down our greenhouse gas emissions significantly, is a big focus on renewable energy in our textile mills.
That's great. All right, this one was touched on a little before, but what other Haynes products are made with U.S. cotton, and then how can those products be identified on the website?
So we started with BPT because that was the iconic one. That's not the end of the road. We'll continue to keep adding more U.S. grown cotton. I think the next one that's slated for launch later this year is the 4980, which is the 4.5 ounce ring spun tee. So we'll transition that one, and then we'll keep it rolling after that. I don't have a specific plan laid out for which ones will be next, but I do know that one's next. Yeah, we think it's important, so we're going to continue to shift as much as we can. Outside of just Haynes, all of the Comfort Wash product made with U.S. grown cotton and has been from the very beginning. So I guess that was the very first one. So 3 or 4 years now, we've made that entire product line with U.S. grown cotton.
Great, thanks, Chris. All right, another question. Has Haynes ever considered using an alternative to cotton, such as fabrics made from recycling waste materials?
We have, and we do use some recycled cotton, but in particular in sock. The staple length of the cotton, of recycled cotton, is much shorter and is much more apt to be used in yarns for socks than it is for jersey and fleece. So we are doing some of it, but it is not currently, the technology that we've worked with is not as applicable to jersey and fleece as it has been to socks. But we recycle a lot of cotton, but most of that goes back into socks.
Great. All right, Carson, I have a question specifically for you. What sustainable products do you find are most popular with your clients? And then also, do you have a favorite sustainable product that you wish more of your clients would adopt?
Oh, goodness. I mean, going back to what we were talking about earlier, just around purpose, I feel like my favorite product is truly whatever makes the most sense for the campaign that we're working on. So, most recently we've seen definitely apparel continues to be, a big driver for us. I think the BPT is obviously fantastic. Other brands like Alternative are a personal favorite. They've got some great sustainable offerings there. And then outside of that, into other hard goods, I mean, I think looking at products that are made of things like bamboo fiber, we've said this over and over in this conversation, but sustainability is such an umbrella term. It's such a broad topic. So we really have to get down to what matters the most to the company that we're working with, or the buyer that we're servicing. And is it that it's made in the USA? And so can we, connect that consumer or that brand with a product that's made in the USA? And then there was a second question that I think I maybe missed.
Oh, yeah. The second part is, do you have a favorite sustainable product that you wish more of your clients would adopt?
A favorite sustainable product that I wish more of our clients would adopt? Well, a lot of our clients are currently adopting Nalgene, which again, like, there's Nalgene. There's a product line that's made in the USA out of recycled materials, but then even beyond that, just a traditional Nalgene bottle. Number one, it has an amazing space for brand. You're not limited to like a 2x2 imprint area, so you can like really beautifully decorate that, which speaks to how design can impact sustainability. And then getting rid of pesky water bottles. So any client that we work with right now is getting sold on Nalgene. That's a personal preference of mine.
Great. No, thank you for sharing. Someone else asked, so the circular economy is something gaining interest. What steps has Haynes taken to incorporate the circular economy?
And I can take that as well. One is as a goal, if you look in again on the new website to our 2030 goals, we've got a goal of having all of our major brands incorporate a fully circular product into their product line between now and 25. Although I think we'll beat that timeline pretty significantly. But a lot of the recycling work that we're doing, pushing more towards recycled poly and getting out of virgin poly. And again, although that recycled cotton doesn't typically land in a t-shirt or a sweatshirt, we're rolling that back right into socks and really looking at ways that we can expand kind of the definition of circularity and our overall efforts. But we've done a lot in that space already.
Great, thanks, Chris. All right, another question. Has Haynes quantified or considered determining their carbon footprint of specific products such as the Haynes BPP?
Yeah, we haven't typically gone down to the product level, although we can look at it. Again, I think the fact that we own so much of our own manufacturing, we look at it at company-wide, especially in our manufacturing operations. So we have not typically, we certainly haven't reported it publicly, going down to the actual product or brand level, but can assure everybody that as a company, we are actively tracking that and actively trying to drive those numbers south. And again, that's just part of our 2030 goal set as well. Not at the product level, but we are absolutely tracking it at a higher level to drive those numbers further and further south.
Awesome. Another question, why do you think heavier weight tees are trending right now? I know we touched a little bit about it, like the vintage nostalgic factor. Do you have any other thoughts of why this might be?
I think most trends sort of flow in and out. I mean, that's just the nature of apparel and fashion. Lightweight t-shirts were really kind of king for a while, but the trends just kind of come and go. Anything that was popular once, if you wait long enough, will be popular again. And I think the shift towards heavier weight is just what we're seeing right now. I don't have another really good, insightful reason other than that, but it's just flowing back and forth between weights.
That makes sense. Great. All right. So that about all the time we have for questions today, but if you think of more, please just keep sending them because we will send them to our presenters. So before we part ways, I am excited to let everyone know or remind you, if you are already aware, that Haynes will be giving everyone a free sample of the Haynes BPP if you would like one. So if you'd like to request your free sample, or you'd just like to learn more about Haynes or check out more information about what we discussed today, please reach out to the contact information listed here. And then finally, I just want to thank our speakers so much for joining us today and sharing your expertise with us. This has been really interesting. I know I learned a ton about sustainability. I'm sure that our attendees did as well. So yeah, thank you to everyone for joining us today. It's been a real pleasure.